Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Customs and Excise in Trinidad and Tobago placed under the radar and closely monitored. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Tuesday, 17th January 2023. Details when we return.
Hubbard's Motor Department Mount Gay and Hubbard's Tire Bay, located at the Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, are reminding the motoring public that another round for licensing and inspection has begun. Just arrived on new shipments of quality furrowed and torque tires to fit all makes and models of vehicles at competitive pricing. Shop early to avoid the hassle of long lines. WhatsApp them on 473-405-5482. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Welcome back. Customs and Excise is under the radar as it relates to what it is allowing to enter the borders of Trinidad and Tobago. This was revealed by Minister of National Security Fitzgerald Hines during an interview on I-95.5 FM. Alicia Boucher of TV6 News reports.
According to National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines, border security is the highest priority as breaches to the borders fuel gang-related activities, including the drug and gun trade and human trafficking. Customs and Excise is one of the departments Hines says he's been keeping a close eye on.
As chairman of the Joint Select Committee on National Security, I had the opportunity with other members of that committee to visit our legal ports and pay particular attention to our security elements in those ports. And we found large gaps which we reported to the larger parliament.
The minister says there are now more discoveries of illegal items making their way into the country through customs, including expired and banned pharmaceuticals.
You'd be reading about far more fines. I can tell you in that we have improved our technique, we have improved our intelligence, and we have improved our focus on those areas where our legal ports of entry is one of our biggest gaps and troubles.
Hines isn't putting a specific face or uniform to acts of criminality.
And you would have seen the police charge many of their own and charge members of the customs and immigration and defense force and teachers and lawyers and, doctors. And it is a human condition. Right now, in this society, people are feeling like they're under siege. People don't want to go out at night. People are afraid in their own homes. That is what the criminal community is doing to us. And therefore, we as a society, in a whole of society and certainly a whole of government approach, has to fight back.
Hines has announced that more vessels are to be acquired by the end of March for the coastal and riverine unit of the TTPS. Meanwhile, the minister is also pointing to a flawed judicial process, including the slow manner in dealing with cases, which he says sometimes fails to act as a deterrent to crime.
I, through the Attorney General recently, communicated the view of the law enforcement community that in many cases the sentences imposed by the courts are far too lenient for them to have the deterrent effect. Really? For an example, a gun and ammunition would have yielded fines as small as $3,000 when the gun costs far more than that.
Alicia Boucher, TV6 News.
Disgraceful and disrespectful is how San Fernando Mayor Junior Regrello described the desecration of the late Dr. Leroy Calist's gravesite. The mayor vowed that something will be done to ensure this does not happen again. TTT News has more.
Accompanied by police and councillor with responsibility for parks and institutions, Rayad Hussain, on Saturday morning, San Fernando Mayor Junior Regrello recounted the events that took place after becoming aware of the situation at the Paradise Pasture gravesite.
We immediately contacted the municipal police, and a site visit was arranged for this morning. Lo and behold, we arrived here this morning and further damage was done. There's feces on the grave, there's a dead iguana, and they totally destroyed what was a mound and was a respect to the passing of the late Leroy Callis and the grave that was mound last week.
Mayor Regrello has put the blame squarely on one of the homeless persons who occupy the nearby Harris Promenade. He revealed that at the next municipal meeting, possible solutions will be suggested. In the interim, the mayor said more police patrols will be implemented.
Looking for a solution to this problem, we are going to lock every gate around the cemetery. The major gates are locked, but there are two entrances for pedestrians who may have to do something, who may have to come in here to have quiet moments with their loved ones. But that is allowed, but this will have to stop.
He pleaded with the public to let the dearly departed rest in peace.
It's extremely sad and unfortunate, and we have a responsibility to protect the city, and we are going to do what we have to do.
81-year-old Calypso icon, the Black Stallion, was laid to rest on January 6, 2023.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Still on Trinidad and Tobago, that country outperformed its Caribbean counterparts and the Latin American region in 2022 as it relates to growth in exports. That's according to the Ministry of Trade and Industry, which notes that the resulting revenue was much higher than it was pre-COVID-19. TV6's Alicia Boucher has more in this report.
A whopping 69% increase in exports. That's just how well TNT performed in 2022. This statistic has been put forward by the Ministry of Trade and Industry based on what it says is one of the findings of the 2022 Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC. This places the country atop the leaderboard in the Caribbean and Latin America in terms of growth in that area. The ministry highlights that the Inter-American Development Bank's Trade Trends Estimate in Latin America and the Caribbean publication stated that exports in the Caribbean region increased at a rate of 38% for the said period. The Central Statistical Office places TNT's revenue generated from overall exports in 2022 at $83.2 billion. In 2019, it was $48.6 billion. The ministry says this represents a 71% increase. It is broken down into $66.4 billion from the energy sector and $16.8 billion from the non-energy sector, a marked 29% increase over the pre-COVID-19 period in 2019. The ministry states that export performance in non-energy products was strong, as it points to the following increases for 2022 compared to the year prior. Iron and steel 6%, food and beverage 21%, wood and wood-related products 29%, paper and paper-related products 48%, basic chemicals and fertilizers 37%, and plastic and rubber products 55%. For 2022, the food and beverage sector was valued at $3.1 billion. According to the ministry, to move the export sector forward, it plans on continuing the implementation of initiatives aimed at achieving a further increase in non-energy exports in 2023, and it is prioritizing the expansion of market access and deepening trade with targeted countries and markets of interest. 12 face-to-face trade missions are carded for 2023, and 2 such missions visited Jamaica and Curacao in November 2022. The top export markets globally in 2022 were the United States of America, Belgium, Morocco, Guyana, Mexico, Brazil, Jamaica, and Suriname. The ministry says continuing to provide support for small and medium enterprises would also be in focus through the Grant Fund Facility, which provides a maximum of $250,000 to applicants who meet the requirements. There is also the Steel Pan Manufacturing Grant Fund Facility, which allows steel pan manufacturers to access up to a maximum of $250,000 per tranche, not exceeding $1 million per entity, to fund the acquisition of new machinery, equipment, software, tools, raw materials, and training. Alicia Boucher, TV6 News.
In other news, Usain Bolt among investors defrauded. More in this TVJ News report.
Now, sprint legend Usain Bolt is among the victims of the fraud at SSL. Our assistant group head of sports, Kean Arena, has been tracking down that development and now joins us live. Kean, what have you been hearing?
Thank you very much, Giovanni. Well, My information is Usain Bolt and his team actually found out about this fraud yesterday, and they brought it to the attention of the SSL, after which they brought in the fraud squad. My information, though, is that the company had been investigating this matter since about August of last year. Not the matter of Usain Bolt, but the matter of the fraud taking place in their organization. I can tell you that Usain and his team, to say that he's rocked is an understatement. Very disappointed that he's using legal means in the financial system and has been defrauded. So we wait and see what will happen in the coming days.
Any word on how Usain and his team plan to proceed, Ken?
What I'm hearing is that they plan to use the full legal avenues, whatever that is, to ensure that they recoup those funds. I can tell you it is in the millions of US dollars. I've been asked not to give a figure, so I won't, but it is quite a lot, and it's close to 40 people that's been defrauded. So you're saying there's only one of around close to 40 people.
FTX has been, of date, able to recover some substantial assets worth billions.
In other news, the failed cryptocurrency exchange FTX has reportedly recovered over $5 billion in liquid assets. That's what a company attorney told a Delaware bankruptcy court judge Wednesday. However, the extent of customer losses in the company's collapse is still unknown at this time. FTX founder and former CEO Sam Bankman-Fried is facing 8 fraud-related charges stemming to the company's fallout and is out on $250 million bail. He returns to court in October for trial. His 2 former top associates have already pleaded guilty to charges relating to their role in the cryptocurrency exchange dilemma and are cooperating with authorities in a bid for leniency.
Guyana's opposition leader Aubrey Norton on Friday said the opposition was not consulted on Budget 2023. Here are more details from HGP Nightly News.
Budget 2023 will be presented in the National Assembly on Monday, and Senior Finance Minister Dr. Ashni Singh has been hosting a number of consultations leading up to the date. The latest being with the Private Sector Commission, but opposition leader Aubrey Norton said this is not the case with the opposition party.
We will not come, okay, but we will go to participate in the budget.
Moreover, Norton accused the government of being involved in corruption instead of taking care of the welfare of its people.
I've been trying to get the government to focus on the genuine development of our people. They seem more interested in corruption and spending money rather than development of people, so I don't anticipate much.
Budget 2023 will be presented in the National Assembly on Monday, and will be the 4th to be presented by the Ali-led administration since taking office. According to the Ministry of Finance, this year's budget will see critical development programs for government being fast-tracked and many more expanded. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, Shamar Allen.
Hubbards is once again innovating the way you shop with its new online store, providing 24-hour shopping convenience. You can shop now for appliances, hardware, houseware, building material, and more. Free delivery island-wide. Start shopping now at HubbardsHardware.gd. Safe, convenient, reliable.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.